The city was quiet that night, except for the sound of tires on wet pavement. Marcus held the steering wheel tight, his eyes fixed on the empty streets. He had been driving his taxi since sunrise. His back ached, his stomach growled, and he wanted nothing more than to get home to his daughter, Lily. Lily had begged him to take a break earlier. She had called him after school and said, "Daddy, don't drive too long. I miss you." He promised her he'd be home before midnight. She was only 10, but she carried a loneliness in her voice that reminded him how much she needed him. Since her mother had passed, Marcus was all she had. At 11:45 p.m., just as he was about to head home, his phone buzzed with a request. A final ride. Just one more. He sighed. The money would help. Rent was due, and Lily's school fees were waiting. He tapped to accept. The address glowed on his screen, an unfamiliar part of town. Marcus didn't like going there late at night, but work was work. He turned the wheel and drove, unaware this would be the last fare of his life. The street was darker than he expected. No open shops, no people walking dogs, just silence and broken streetlights. Marcus slowed down and pulled to the curb where a man in a dark jacket waved. "Taxi?" Marcus asked, leaning across the seat. The man nodded quickly and slid in the back. His face was hidden in shadow, his voice low. "Take me downtown." Marcus shifted into gear. Something about the passenger made his skin prickle. The man sat stiff, glancing around like he was being watched. Marcus thought of Lily, waiting at home. He hoped this ride would be quick. As he drove, flashing blue lights appeared in his mirror. A police car pulled up behind him, sirens cutting the silence. Marcus slowed and pulled to the side. His passenger froze. "Don't stop," he hissed. Marcus shook his head. "It's the police. I have to." That was the moment his life split in two. The officer walked up with his hand already on his holster. His eyes didn't go to the passenger. They went straight to Marcus. "Step out of the car," the officer ordered. Marcus frowned. "What's wrong, officer?" "Step out. Now." Marcus did as told, his palms up. The night air was cold, and he could feel his heart racing. He wanted to explain. He wanted to say he was just a father trying to get home. But his voice caught in his throat. The passenger slipped out quietly from the other side and vanished into the shadows. Marcus tried to point it out. "Sir, the man in my car, or he just..." "Shut up," the officer barked, shoving him against the hood. Marcus winced, his cheek pressed to cold metal. "Please, I didn't do anything." "My daughter." Another patrol car screeched up. Two more officers stepped out, hands on their weapons. In seconds, the world collapsed into flashing lights, shouting voices, and the sound of radios crackling. Lily was at home, curled under her blanket with her phone in her hand. She listened to the voicemail her father had left earlier. "Hey, princess," his warm voice said. "I'm on my last ride, then I'll be home. Don't wait up, okay? But I'll kiss you goodnight when I get in." She smiled and whispered, "Hurry home, Daddy." But midnight came. Then one. Then two. No sound of keys at the door, no warm hug. She called his phone again and again, but it rang into silence. She did not know that while she waited, her father's story was turning into the headline that would shake the city. At the police station, the story was already being written. "Suspicious man refused orders," one officer reported into the system. "Resisted arrest," another added. The words built a wall around Marcus before he could even speak. They didn't write that he had begged. That he had said over and over, "Please, I'm just a driver. Please, I have a little girl." They didn't write that his last words were cut short by a crack of violence in the night. The next morning, Lily's world broke apart. Her Aunt Sarah came to the door with tears in her eyes. She wrapped Lily in her arms and whispered, "Baby, I'm so sorry. Your daddy isn't coming home." Lily pushed her away. No. He promised. He called me. He said he'd come home. She pulled out her phone, showing the voicemail, her small hands shaking. See? He promised. Sarah's tears fell harder. I know, sweetheart. But the police? Lily didn't let her finish. She ran to her room, slamming the door, and pressed the voicemail again and again, listening to her father's voice like it was the last thread tying her to him. She made herself a vow: if the world had stolen her father, she would make the world hear his voice. The city woke to headlines. Taxi driver shot after suspicious behavior. Police neutralize threat in late-night stop. But Lily saw the truth in her phone, the voice of a man who just wanted to come home. By afternoon, she had uploaded the voicemail to the internet. She typed with trembling hands. My dad was not suspicious. He was my dad. He promised to come home. Listen to his last words. The post spread like fire. And so began a movement that no one expected. Story continues for 30 chapters, each deepening the suspense, showing the battle between truth and lies, Lily's grief turning to courage, protests spreading, police cover-ups unraveling, friends and strangers uniting, and the haunting replay of the last call as the heartbeat of a city demanding justice. The news spread faster than fire. By sunrise, reporters gathered near the street where Marcus had taken his last ride. Yellow tape wrapped around the scene, fluttering in the breeze. Police cars sat like dark shadows, their lights off but their presence heavy. The official story was already polished. Taxi driver acted suspicious. Ignored commands. Officers feared for their safety. That was the version being fed to the cameras. But the people in the neighborhood had seen more. A woman across the street had watched through her curtains. She told her neighbor he was begging. I heard him. He said he was just trying to go home. But the officers had louder voices, bigger microphones. They stood in front of cameras and told the city their truth. At home, Lily sat at the kitchen table with her Aunt Sarah. The phone was clutched in her hand, the voicemail still saved. She played it for the 100th time. Hey, princess. I'm on my last ride. Don't wait up. I'll be home soon. The sound of his voice filled the room with both comfort and pain. Sarah touched her shoulder. Baby, you can't keep playing it like that. It'll hurt too much. But Lily shook her head. No. Everyone needs to hear it. She uploaded the recording to her father's old social media page, her fingers trembling as she typed. My dad was not suspicious. He was my dad. He promised me he would come home. This is his last call. She hit post. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then a notification. Then 10. Then hundreds. Strangers began to comment. He sounds so kind. This doesn't match what the police said. We need to know the truth. By the end of the day, the voicemail was everywhere. People played it on buses, on phones, in classrooms. It was no longer just Lily's memory. It was the voice of a man who should still be alive. And the city began to stir. The police chief sat in his office watching the spread of the video. His jaw tightened. Shut this down, he barked at his staff. We're trying, one officer muttered, staring at his computer screen. But it's gone viral. It's too late. The chief slammed his fist on the desk. Then bury it. Find something in his past. Anything that makes him look guilty. By nightfall, a new story hit the news. Taxi driver had previous record. They dug up a mistake Marcus had made 15 years ago, a fight when he was barely 20. They painted him as violent, dangerous, unstable. But Lily refused to let them steal his image. She went live on her phone, her small face filling the screen. My dad was not dangerous. He was my hero. He worked every day to take care of me. He left me this voicemail. He promised me he'd come home. He never did. Please, don't let them lie about him. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her voice was steady. Please help me. Please share my dad's story. Her video spread even faster than the police reports. People saw a little girl fighting for her father, and they listened. The city was no longer silent. By the weekend, hundreds gathered outside the police station. They held signs. Justice for Marcus. Stop the lies. Listen to the last call. The crowd chanted together, their voices echoing down the streets. Sarah held Lily's hand tight, afraid of the growing tension, but Lily's chin was lifted. She had never seen so many people gathered for her father. A woman with a microphone approached Lily. "Sweetheart, do you want to say something to the crowd?" Lily hesitated, then stepped forward. The crowd grew quiet. Her small voice carried through the speakers. My daddy was not suspicious. He was just driving. He was just trying to come home to me. Please don't forget him. The crowd erupted, chanting his name. Marcus! 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 For the first time since her father's death, Lily felt something she hadn't felt in days: hope. But in the shadows of the station windows, officers watched with cold eyes. And they whispered to each other, "This is getting out of control." Would you like me to continue writing through all 30 chapters in one go, or would you prefer I expand in chunks of 5 chapters at a time so it's easier to read and build suspense step by step? The protests grew larger every day. What began as a few dozen people chanting in front of the station had swelled into hundreds. Men, women, students, elders, they all came, holding candles at night, holding signs by day. The city had not seen this much unrest in years. Some came because they were angry. Others came because they had stories of their own, family members who had been stopped unfairly, neighbors who had been beaten, friends who had never made it home. For many, Marcus became the symbol of all the voices that had been silenced before. But not everyone welcomed the protests. On talk radio, a host sneered, "This taxi driver story is out of hand. People don't know the full facts." On television, a panel of experts debated whether Marcus was really innocent. They questioned why he was in that neighborhood so late. They asked if maybe he had ties to crime. Sarah sat in the living room watching the news with clenched fists. Lily sat beside her, hugging her knees. "Why are they lying?" Lily asked. "Because the truth scares them," Sarah whispered. But Lily didn't back down. She picked up her phone again and typed a new post. "You don't have to believe me. Just listen to my dad. He left me his last words. They don't sound like a criminal. They sound like love." She attached the voicemail again. And again, the city listened. At the police station, the mood turned sharp. Officers stood in the break room watching the video spread across their phones. "This girl is making us look bad," one muttered. Another nodded. "If this keeps going, people will start digging deeper." The chief walked in, silencing the room. He spoke in a low growl. "They won't find anything. We control the files. We control the reports. We control the story." But his confidence was cracked when a young officer raised his hand. "Sir, I was at the scene that night. I saw everything." He wasn't resisting. He was trying to explain. "We." "Stop right there," the chief cut in, his eyes like steel. "Do you want to keep your badge, son? Then you didn't see anything." The young officer swallowed hard, nodding reluctantly. But deep down, a seed of doubt had already been planted. Meanwhile, Lily's story caught the attention of a local journalist named James. He was known for chasing difficult stories, the kind the police wanted buried. He called Sarah and asked if he could meet them. At first Sarah was unsure. "I don't want them to use us, Lily," she said. But Lily looked up at her with steady eyes. "If we don't talk, Daddy's story will die." So they met James at a small diner on the corner. He was tall, with tired eyes and a notebook that looked like it had lived 100 lives. He listened quietly as Lily played the voicemail again. When it finished, James whispered, "This doesn't match their story at all." Sarah asked, "Can you prove it?" James leaned forward. "If you let me, I'll dig until the truth comes out. But you need to understand, the more light we shine, the harder they'll fight back." Lily answered without hesitation. "Shine it. My dad deserves it." The next morning, James published the first of many articles. "The Last Call, A Father's Promise, A Daughter's Fight." The article quoted Lily. It shared the voicemail. It questioned the police version of events. And most importantly, it revealed something new: security camera footage from a nearby store that caught glimpses of the stop. The blurry video showed Marcus standing with his hands raised, not resisting. It showed a passenger slipping away into the shadows. It was not complete, but it was enough to spark more outrage. The comments flooded in. Why didn't the police mention the passenger? He was clearly cooperating. This doesn't add up. The chief saw the article and cursed. Find that journalist. Shut him down. But it was too late. The truth was spreading like cracks in glass. That night, Lily had a dream. She saw her father standing in the kitchen, smiling at her with tired eyes. He wore the same jacket he had left in. "Daddy," she whispered. He touched her cheek gently. "Keep fighting, princess. Don't let them silence me." When she woke, tears stained her pillow. She sat up and pressed play on the voicemail once more. This time, she didn't cry. She smiled through her pain. "I won't stop, Daddy," she whispered. "I promise." The protests grew louder. Streets filled with chants, signs, and the sound of drums beating like a heartbeat for justice. Every night, candles lit the sidewalks in Marcus's name. But with the protests came anger from the other side. Counter-protesters appeared, holding flags and shouting insults. They carried signs that read, "Support the police and stop making heroes out of criminals." One evening, as Sarah and Lily walked past the square, a man stepped in front of them. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. "Your daddy was a thug," he spat at Lily. Sarah pulled Lily close, but Lily surprised her. She lifted her chin and said, "My daddy was a good man." "You didn't know him." "But I did." The man scoffed and walked away, muttering curses. Sarah looked down at Lily in shock. "Baby, how did you stay so calm?" Lily's voice was steady. "Because I know who Daddy was. They can't take that from me." Sarah's heart swelled with pride and sorrow at the same time. Inside the police station, the chief's nerves were unraveling. The pressure from the public was mounting, and now the mayor was calling for a review. "We can't hold this off forever," the mayor warned. "The people are demanding answers." The chief forced a smile. "We'll give them answers. Just not the ones they want." Behind closed doors, he met with the officers who had been at the scene that night. "Stick to the story," he told them. "If one of you cracks, we all go down." But the young officer who had spoken up earlier couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Marcus's face, heard his pleas, remembered the sound of fear in his voice. He knew he was part of a lie. And each day, the lie grew heavier. James, the journalist, dug deeper. He knocked on doors, spoke to neighbors, collected every scrap of evidence he could find. One night, he sat across from Sarah and Lily with a folder in his hands. "I found something," he said, sliding the folder open. Inside were photographs, Marcus's car after the stop. No weapon was found. No drugs. Nothing. They searched everything, James said. He was clean. Just a man working. Sarah clenched her fists. "So why did they?" "Because they could," James interrupted, his voice heavy. "Because they thought no one would care." Lily's eyes burned with tears, but she shook her head. "We care. And now everyone will." The city's tension snapped one evening when protesters and police clashed. Tear gas filled the streets, rubber bullets cracked against shields, and people scattered through the smoke. Sarah pulled Lily into a doorway, shielding her with her own body. Coughing and choking, they waited for the chaos to calm. When it finally quieted, the street was littered with broken signs and burning trash cans. Lily looked up at her arm with wide eyes. "Are they going to hurt us too?" Sarah hugged her tightly. "Not if I can help it." But deep down, fear gnawed at her. They were already targets, and the more they spoke, the more dangerous it became. The next morning, a surprise shook the city. A video appeared online, anonymously uploaded. It was shaky, grainy, but clear enough. It showed Marcus that night, standing outside his taxi, hands up, pleading. His voice cracked with desperation. "Please, I'm just a driver. I have a daughter. Please, don't shoot." Then came the moment no one could deny, the officer striking him down. The video ended abruptly, but it was enough. The truth was out. The city erupted. People poured into the streets, angrier and louder than ever. And in the middle of it all, Lily whispered to herself, "Daddy, they heard you." The leaked video spread everywhere. News stations replayed it on a loop. Social media overflowed with outrage, shock, and grief. Comment sections filled with words like murder, cover-up, justice. For the first time, even those who doubted Marcus began to question the official story. The lies were cracking wide open. In their small apartment, Sarah held Lily as they watched the footage on TV. Lily's face was pale, but her voice was calm. "They can't say he was suspicious anymore," she whispered. "Everyone can see now. Daddy was just scared." Sarah kissed her forehead. "Baby, you're stronger than anyone I know." But deep down, Sarah worried. The louder the truth became, the more dangerous it was for them. At the station, the chief slammed his desk so hard the picture frames rattled. "Who leaked that video?" he roared. No one answered. Some officers stared at the floor, others at the wall. Everyone was thinking the same thing, someone in here broke rank. The chief's eye scanned the room. "Whoever it was, you've ruined this department. Do you want riots in our streets? Do you want this city to burn?" But his threats couldn't undo what was already spreading. The city had seen Marcus's last moments. No lie could erase that. One officer, the young one who had struggled with guilt, kept his mouth shut. But inside, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the truth was winning. James wrote his most powerful article yet. The headline read, "The Last Call, the Night Truth Spoke Louder Than Lies." He detailed everything, the voicemail, the cover-up, the leaked video. He included quotes from community leaders, from neighbors, from people who had never even met Marcus but now felt like they knew him. His words burned across the page. This is not just one man's story. This is the story of every person who has begged to be seen as human, and every child left waiting for a parent who never came home. The article shook the city. National outlets picked it up. Soon, Marcus's name was known far beyond his neighborhood. And through it all, Lily's voice was at the center. With the world watching, officials scrambled. The mayor called an emergency press conference. Cameras flashed as he stepped to the podium. "We will be opening an independent investigation into the events surrounding the death of Marcus Williams," he announced. The crowd shouted questions. Will the officers be charged? Why did you wait so long? The mayor's smile was strained. We are committed to transparency. But in the back of the room, Sarah whispered to Lily, "They're only doing this because of you." Lily squeezed her aunt's hand. She didn't smile, didn't celebrate. She just whispered, "Then we have to keep going." That night, Lily posted a new message online. "My dad's last call was not just to me. It was to all of us. He wanted to come home. He deserved to. Everyone deserves that." Her words spread like wildfire. People quoted her in speeches, painted her words on signs, printed them on shirts. But not everyone wanted her voice to grow. That same night, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, a rock crashed through their front window. Glass scattered across the floor. A note tied to the rock read, "Stop talking or else." Sarah grabbed the phone with shaking hands and called the police. But deep down, she wondered, could they even trust the police to protect them? Lily picked up the note with steady fingers. She looked at her aunt and said, "I'm not stopping." Daddy didn't stop. Why should I? The rock through the window was only the beginning. Over the next few days, strange cars idled outside their apartment at night. Headlights stayed on, engines humming, then disappeared when neighbors came out to look. Phone calls came at odd hours, silent on the other end. Sarah tried to stay calm for Lily's sake, but inside she was terrified. She kept the curtains closed, double-locked the door, and jumped at every sound. But Lily refused to be shaken. She sat at the kitchen table, writing on poster boards for the next march. Bold letters read, "Justice for Daddy. No more lies." Sarah touched her shoulder gently. "Baby, maybe we should step back a little. It's getting dangerous." But Lily shook her head. "If we stop, then Daddy's story dies. I won't let them win." Sarah saw the fire in her eyes and knew nothing would break her niece's spirit. James heard about the threats and came by one evening. He brought food and a promise. "You're not alone," he told Sarah and Lily. "The community is with you. And so am I." Sarah's voice trembled. "What if something happens to her?" James leaned forward. "Then something happens to all of us. They're scared because you're strong. That means you're winning." He promised to connect them with activists who could provide security. Soon, volunteers began taking shifts outside their apartment at night. Young men and women with flashlights and walkie-talkies stood watch, making sure Lily and Sarah were safe. For the first time in days, Sarah breathed easier. And Lily smiled, whispering, "See, Auntie? Daddy sent us help." Meanwhile, inside the police department, the young officer wrestled with his conscience. Every night, Marcus's voice echoed in his mind, "I have a daughter." The leaked video had shaken him. He wasn't the one who filmed it, but he knew who had. Another officer, a quiet veteran tired of the lies, had slipped it out. Now the department was hunting for the leak, and both men were in danger. The young officer finally made a decision. He reached out to James anonymously, sending him an email. "I was there that night. The official report is a lie. I can prove it. But if they find me, I'm finished." James read the message, his pulse racing. The story was bigger than he imagined. The truth wasn't just leaking, it was ready to flood. The protests swelled again. This time, thousands filled the streets. The sound of their chants thundered through the city. "No justice, no peace. Say his name, Marcus Williams." Sarah walked beside Lily, holding her hand tightly. Cameras flashed as they marched together. At one point, a reporter knelt down and asked Lily, "Why are you here today?" Lily answered simply, "Because my dad can't be. I'm walking for him." The crowd cheered. Her words spread instantly, replayed on every news station, quoted in every article. But as the protest grew, so did the police presence. Officers lined the streets in riot gear, shields raised, batons ready. The air was heavy with tension. Everyone knew one wrong move could spark chaos. As the sun set, the march turned into a candlelight vigil. People lifted their candles high, singing softly, their voices blending in the night air. Lily stood on the steps of City Hall, holding her candle. She whispered to the flame, "Daddy, I hope you can see this." The crowd fell silent. Someone handed Lily a microphone. At first she froze, the light of hundreds of candles flickering before her. But then she lifted her voice. "My dad's last call was to me. But now it's to all of you. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop shining your light." The crowd erupted into cheers, chanting her name, "Lily! Lily! Lily!" From the shadows, unseen, the chief watched with cold fury. He leaned to the officer beside him and muttered, "She's turning the city against us. If we don't stop this soon, we're finished." The young officer couldn't sleep. His uniform felt heavier each day, as if it carried the weight of Marcus's death. Every time he looked in the mirror, he saw a coward staring back. He had joined the force to protect people, not to bury the truth. But the chief's threats echoed in his ears. If he spoke out, he would lose everything. Still, his conscience screamed louder. Finally, he wrote another email to James. "We met once during training. My name is Daniel. I can't stay silent anymore. If you protect me, I'll testify." James sat back in his chair, heart pounding. This was the break the case needed. A witness inside the force. He called Sarah and Lily immediately. "We're not just fighting rumors anymore. We have someone ready to stand with us." Lily's eyes lit with hope. "Daddy's voice is getting louder." The next day, Daniel met James in a quiet diner outside the city. He slid a small flash drive across the table. "This has the unedited bodycam footage," Daniel whispered. "They hid it. Ordered us to delete copies. But I saved one." James opened the laptop. His stomach knotted as the video played. It showed everything. Marcus pleading. His hands raised. His voice breaking, "Please, I just want to go home to my daughter." Then the moment of violence, clear and undeniable. James's jaw clenched. This changes everything. Daniel's eyes darted around the diner. "You have to be careful. If they know I gave you this, they'll come after us both." James nodded. "Don't worry. We'll protect you. But this will blow the city wide open." That evening, James prepared to release the footage. But just before publishing, his phone rang. The caller ID was unknown. When he answered, a low voice hissed, "If you release that video, the girl suffers." James froze. His eyes flicked to Lily, sitting at the kitchen table across from him, coloring on a piece of paper. He hung up quickly, his face pale. Sarah noticed and whispered, "What is it?" He lied, "Nothing." But inside, fear churned. Whoever made that call knew exactly how to strike. He faced a terrible choice: risk Lily's safety, or silence the truth. Meanwhile, the chief's rage boiled over. He paced his office, gripping a glass of whiskey in one hand. "She's just a child, and yet the whole city listens to her," he snarled. "We need to end this before it destroys us." Another officer hesitated. "What are you suggesting, sir?" The chief's eyes narrowed. "Scare them into silence. Permanently, if we have to." The officer shifted uncomfortably. "With all respect, sir, she's only 10. The chief slammed his glass against the wall, shattering it. "Don't talk to me about age. Talk to me about survival." Silence fell heavy in the room. No one dared speak again. The night of the next protest, the crowd was larger than ever. Thousands filled the streets, their chants rising into the night sky. Lily stood at the front, clutching Sarah's hand. Her face glowed in the candlelight, her small frame unshaken by the sea of people behind her. But in the shadows of the crowd, unseen eyes were watching her. A man in plain clothes moved closer, hand in his pocket. Another stood by a lamppost, whispering into a phone. James noticed the movements and felt his blood run cold. He leaned down to Sarah. "Keep Lily close. Something's not right." The chants grew louder. The tension thickened. And then, chaos. The chaos erupted fast. Someone in the crowd threw a bottle. Police surged forward with shields, shouting. Protesters screamed, running in all directions. The air filled with smoke and panic. James grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her close as Sarah tried to shield her with her own body. People stumbled around them, coughing, crying, falling. Through the blur of panic, James spotted a man pushing through the crowd, his hand hidden in his jacket. He wasn't a protester. His eyes were locked on Lily. James's stomach dropped. They're here for her. He shouted over the noise, "Run!" Sarah lifted Lily into her arms, forcing her way through the mob. Behind them, James shoved back against the tide, trying to slow the man chasing them. Then, sirens. Loud and sharp, but not from the riot police. A convoy of cars pulled up. From them stepped community leaders, lawyers, even reporters with cameras rolling. They forced their way into the chaos, demanding the police stand down. The man who had been chasing Lily froze. With cameras everywhere, he couldn't move without exposing himself. Slowly, he melted back into the crowd. Sarah, gasping for breath, carried Lily to the steps of City Hall where the protest had begun. James stumbled after them, his face pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. In the chaos, a microphone was thrust into Lily's hand once more. She stood trembling, clutching Sarah's arm. The crowd grew quiet. Lily lifted her chin, her voice steady despite her shaking body. "My dad's last call was to me," she said. But really, it was to all of us. He wanted to come home. He deserved to. Everyone deserves that. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop telling the truth. Don't stop shining your light. The crowd roared, louder than any sound that night. The chant rose again, echoing through the streets, through the city, through the cameras now broadcasting to the world. Justice for Marcus! Justice for Marcus! The next day, the unedited bodycam footage was released. Daniel, the young officer, stood beside James and other community leaders at a press conference. He looked nervous, but his voice carried weight. The official report was a lie, he said. Marcus Williams did nothing wrong. He begged for his life. And we took it from him. Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. For the first time, the truth was undeniable. The mayor announced charges against the officers involved. The chief was placed under investigation. But in the quiet of their apartment, Sarah and Lily didn't celebrate with cheers. They sat together, holding hands, listening once more to the voicemail that had started it all. "Hey, princess. I'm on my last ride. Don't wait up. I'll be home soon." Tears ran down Lily's face, but this time she smiled. "Daddy," she whispered, "you came home. Not the way I wanted. But you came home in all of us." Sarah hugged her tight. He'll never be forgotten. And outside, the city glowed with candlelight, voices rising together, carrying Marcus's name into history.